Imagine a civilization that could carve mountains into faces. A people who literally laid the cultural groundwork for legendary empires like the Maya and the Aztec, and then, after 1,000 years of dominance, just seemed to vanish from their great cities. Well, this isn't fiction. This is the real story of the Olmecs, a civilization whose legacy is just as massive as the monuments they left behind.
Just look at this. This is one of 17 known colossal heads. These incredible monuments that are staring at us from across 3 millennia. The people who made them? The Olmec. They flourished over 3,000 years ago in the lush, tropical lowlands of Mexico's southern Gulf Coast. They were the very first people in the Americas to build monumental art and architecture, and these incredible portraits are their most enduring testament. I mean, what a profound statement of power and artistry.
So, here's where we're headed. We'll start with these first giants and their amazing monuments. Then, we'll tackle the big debate, were they a mother or sister culture? After that, we'll dive into how art, power, and belief built their entire world, investigate the mystery of why that world collapsed, and finally, we'll trace the powerful echoes they left all through time.
All right, let's start with the most iconic and, frankly, just awe-inspiring achievement of the Olmec, the colossal heads. The sheer scale we're talking about here is just staggering. Some of these sculptures weighed over 20 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than 3 adult elephants. And here's the kicker. The Olmecs quarried, carved, and moved them without any metal tools, without wheels, and without pack animals.
Now, what's so crucial to understand is that these weren't just generic statues. No, they are believed to be the first royal portraits in ancient Mexico. Each one is a realistic depiction of a specific Olmec king. They were carved from volcanic basalt that was sourced up to 150 kilometers away and then displayed in these powerful rows in their ceremonial centers. And you can see the purpose when you look closely at the helmets. Each one has unique patterns, likely identifying the ruler by name or by their lineage. It was a way of broadcasting their individual power for absolutely everyone to see.
Okay, so when you see something this incredible, it naturally leads to a really big question, one that archaeologists have been debating for decades. Just how influential were the Olmecs, really?
Their civilization rose up right here in what we now call the Olmec heartland. It's a region of rivers and rainforests in the modern Mexican states of Veracruz and Tabasco. From this home base, their influence spread far and wide. But the question is, were they the single origin point for everything that came after?
And this is the core of the whole debate. Did all the great ideas of later civilizations, we're talking calendars, pyramids, even their gods, did it all spring from this one, single, mother culture? For a long time, the traditional view was yes, absolutely, they were the mother, the single source. But more recently, our thinking on this has shifted. The modern sister culture theory suggests a much more complex picture. You see, Mesoamerica was this bustling place with many innovative cultures all developing at the same time. The Olmec weren't necessarily the only inventors, but their powerful centralized state and their massive trade networks made them the most effective standardizers and distributors of these new ideas. They kind of set the pattern for centuries to come.
So, how did they do it? How did the Olmecs build a society that was so influential? A society that could actually mobilize the manpower to move 20-ton stones? Well, the answer seems to lie in this seamless fusion of art, power, and religious belief.
And you know, that might be the understatement of the century. The level of coordination needed for their projects. It speaks to a highly organized, totally centralized society where the rulers held immense authority.
I mean, think about it. Just getting the stone for the colossal heads was a monumental task in itself. First, they had to quarry these multi-ton boulders way over in the distant Tuxtla Mountains. Then, huge teams of laborers had to drag them on wooden sledges over land. And finally, they floated these massive stones on rafts downriver to their cities. This whole process shows an incredible command of labor, logistics, and the world around them. And what's so amazing is that their artistic skill wasn't just about going big. At the same time they were carving these colossal heads from basalt, they were also creating these incredibly detailed, delicate figurines from precious greenstone, like jadeite. It just shows an astonishing artistic range. And it is incredible how much meaning they could pack into one small object. Take a look at this. It's called a votive axe. Its green color and long shape were meant to symbolize an ear of maize or corn, the food that kept them alive. The V-shaped crack in its head,
That represents divinity, but it also looks like a sprouting corn plant. So this one little object connects the ruler's divine authority directly to the survival of his people. He wasn't just a king, he was the guy who guaranteed the harvest.
Of course, all this earthly authority was backed up by a pantheon of powerful gods. You had the formidable were-jaguar, a mix of human and jaguar that embodied the forces of rain and shamanic power. The maize deity, of course, was central to their survival, and they introduced the concept of the feathered serpent, a divine being that would become one of the most important gods in all of Mesoamerica, a being the Aztecs would later call Quetzalcoatl. These beliefs were the very foundation of their society.
But as we see so often in history, even a world built on such a powerful foundation of art, belief, and divinely backed power couldn't last forever. Now we turn to one of the great mysteries of the ancient world, the collapse of the Olmec, a silence just falling over a civilization at its absolute peak.
Now, the first thing to get is that this wasn't one single event. It wasn't like a switch being flipped. Power shifted over centuries. San Lorenzo was the first great center, but it fell around 900 BCE. Power then moved to Levanta, which really represents the peak of Olmec civilization. Its fall around 400 BCE marks the end of the classic Olmec era, even though a successor site, Tresopotes, would keep going for centuries more.
But everything really hinges on this date, 400 BCE. The great city of Levanta was abandoned. The production of all those luxury goods and colossal monuments just stopped. And the vast trade networks that were the lifeblood of the Olmec elite, they just disintegrated. So why?
Well, there's no single smoking gun. It was most likely a perfect storm of different factors all hitting at once. Their slash-and-burn agriculture may have led to deforestation and worn-out soil. But remember that votive axe? The king's power was based on a divine contract to provide for his people. So if environmental problems caused the crops to fail, that contract was broken. The rulers would lose all their legitimacy, which likely led to internal conflict and the total collapse of their centralized power structure.
But here's the twist. The collapse of their political system was not the end of their story. In fact, you could argue their greatest influence was just beginning to be felt.
And if you want proof of their incredible legacy, look no further than this. On the left, you see a classic Olmec figure. On the right, that's an Olmec-style mask that archaeologists found in a sacred offering at the Templo Mayor, the main temple of the Aztec capital. This offering was made around 1470 AD, nearly 2,000 years after the Olmec centers collapsed. The Aztecs, a mighty empire in their own right, were digging up and revering Olmec artifacts as relics from a powerful ancient past.
You can literally see their cultural DNA getting passed down. The ritual ball game, which was played for 3,000 years, shows up in their art. The Cascajo block might just be the earliest writing in the entire New World. And this stone monument, Stela C from Tresopotes, has one of the earliest dates ever recorded in the famous long count calendar, the system later perfected by the Maya.
And that's the thing about the Olmecs, isn't it? They remind us that a civilization doesn't have to survive to be immortal. Their political world completely vanished, but their ideas became the foundation for countless others. It really leaves you wondering, how many other lost worlds, whose names we don't even know, are still shaping the world we live in today?